Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network. kingofpodcasts.com.
Lil Tay goes from trending on TikTok to sexual overdrive on OnlyFans?
We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
I know. Another OnlyFans episode. Well, it just happens to come around where everything aligns to go ahead and talk about this again. But we're not going to necessarily go right into Bonnie Blue. We do have to talk about her tonight because a documentary about her 1,057 guys that she had sex with in 12 hours, that was put into a documentary and is now out and available. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we got to talk about the latest darling, the latest starlet to come to OnlyFans, who just turned 18 years old a couple days ago. Lil Tay. And you're asking yourself, who is that? I know. Well, I'll go ahead and get you all filled in on that so that you are aware. Lil Tay has a TikTok following of over 5 million followers and 9 million followers across all social media platforms. So just to give you an idea of who she is, her birth name is Claire Eileen Keyhope, an American/Canadian internet personality and musician, rose to prominence at 2018 at the age of 10. Now, so far in her career as an influencer, she gained notoriety for controversial Instagram and YouTube videos featuring her boasting about wealth, using expletives and rapping. She took an online hiatus from social media in 2018 amid a custody battle between her parents. There was a false statement in 2023 about her death posted on her Instagram account, which was later found to be a hoax. And she blamed her estranged father for orchestrating the hoax, an accusation that he has since declined. And now she is back, and as of July 2025, about a week ago, she chose and made the decision to launch an OnlyFans account. And she has claimed now to have made over $1 million within hours of joining the platform because she had a lot of people already preparing to go ahead and join, like almost like a pre-save, like a song. That's what it was for her. Now, I was familiar with some of the stuff that she did online, but the one thing I knew about her that I was familiar with was that she had a song that came out in 2023 called Sucker for Green. Pretty cool song. I actually kind of like it. I still got it on my playlist. So that was where I got from her from. So a viral child star, adult content creator. Now, a lot of issues, and now she's back here. If she's going on OnlyFans, what is she going to be doing on OnlyFans? Well, she's 18 years old. She's an adult now. Now she wants to do things sexual. So here's what we got so far about her. She says that it took 3 hours for her to gain $1 million on OnlyFans. She attached a screenshot of her earnings page showing that she had $500,000 that came from subscriptions and $400,000 attributed to messages. She has collaborated with the likes of Jake Paul and Diplo. She's gone through a lot in her time. She also underwent open heart surgery at one point in September 2024, where she went under open heart surgery to remove a tumor. She's done a lot. Shared photos of the surgery on X, revealing after 2 weeks in the hospital she was on the mend. And like I said, has done a lot for herself. She says joining OnlyFans is a sex-positive decision. She revealed in August she was going to join the page to, quote, move women forward and support females expressing themselves, end quote. She actually posted on a recent TikTok video, I just turned 18 and honestly my biggest reason for wanting to drop the link has been Sabrina Carpenter and Sydney Sweeney. They're literally my top inspirations. Are the ones that are bringing women forward into 2025. That's why I'm going to, or 3025, she said. That's why I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to be the youngest one to stand behind them. She also called out the haters who were upset with Carpenter and Sweeney, where they both had controversy among their fans because the sexualization that's out there is straight. And that's where everybody's getting all upset about. Sabrina Carpenter putting out her new album coming up this month, Man's Best Friend, and the initial art for the album actually has her on all fours, looking like she's being petted like a dog, right? Or kind of like serving herself super submissive. It's again sexually controversial. It's out there, salacious. It catches attention. And the other thing too is that we're starting to see a lot of is that, when people feel like there's something that's woke and something that's anti-woke, we already know that capitalism kind of changes things up. Okay, we know that advertisers are realizing, oh, you know what? We can actually spark some hate off this minority group that's all woke, and that's enough to get everybody else to go and catch on, and then they start buying into it. It's like, they're playing politics with it. I don't care about that stuff. I just think it's kind of interesting, the fact that we are getting to a point where everything is sexual like it was. You know what I mean? Look, sex is okay. Sex is a thing. We were all biologically wired to be sexual beings. Now, of course, the way we do it, depending on your religion, depending on your culture, depending on so many other factors, socio-ecological, economical factors, sociological factors, whatever. Everybody has their reasons for how they have sex, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why we are sexual beings, because we procreate. Either which way. It's surprising when she decided to go ahead and go on this route. And listen, I didn't cover anything about Sabrina Carpenter doing the album cover for Man's Best Friend. Don't worry about that. Social media users claiming the image glorified domestic violence. And then she put out another version of the cover, quipped, saying it was approved by God. By the way, I will say this. I approve of Sabrina Carpenter. I think what she's been doing with her career, this approach, listen, for some people, they're going to be saying, well, what's she doing? Yeah, what do you think Madonna did? What do you think that, I would say like Jennifer Lopez would have done, or anybody else, sexualizing themselves. And big deal. And of course, the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle jeans thing, I'm not touching that. That's like such a hyper political thing right now. Of course, I think she looks great in jeans. She's a good looking girl. Both of them are good looking girls, and both talented. Everybody wants to talk about, oh, well, they only look at Sydney Sweeney as a model. No, she's an actress. And she's an accomplished actress, okay? So give it that. And then for Sabrina Carpenter, I think her music's great. I think she's awesome. And the approach of her career, killing off the fact that she was opening for Taylor Swift on the Eras Tour, and how that catapulted her, because she was already with a career so far, had the song Honest, had Feather, had other songs that were already like out there, good stuff. And then short and sweet, and then everything just goes off, and like she is taken off. Espresso becomes the song of the summer last year. You can still hear it now, and it still doesn't get old to me. And she's got good stuff. And you know what? Even when she's kind of bashing men with songs like Man Child, I'm all in too. Fine. And I like women that got some gusto, strength, and just like, hey, tell it like it is. Have some fun out there, okay? Totally fine. But there is a point where both of those women are both in their 20s. They've been, they're not necessarily freshly turned adults. They're both, they're grown women. Lil Tay just turned into a woman, technically. Maybe, I don't know, in terms of where her maturity is right now. I mean, of course, she's lived a life from everything that's gone on with a lot of issues with family, issues with surgery, issues with death hoaxes, and all the backlash she probably gets on a regular basis for being such a public figure. It's a lot. But that's where she's with that. Now, going on about what she did, she put also on a TikTok video, it's my 18th birthday, and every male has been counting down to it. She's got an ego, pretty healthy one. Child rapper / internet personality. So you already know what she's doing here. And I'm taking from a story from The Cut, from the New York magazine, that wrote about this. Olivia Craighead writing about this. She's a pop culture and celebrity writer. And she writes about this young lady and says that, quote, if you're wondering who would want to subscribe to the porn account of someone who was 17 just a few days ago, the answer is a lot of people. Is that gross? Yes. Is she making a ton of money from it? Also, yes. So she goes on and explains everything about herself. So the fact that she wants to go ahead and get on here, and her cerebral cortex or frontal cortex or frontal lobe has not even developed yet, is a little bit concerning. But hey, man, look, there's the barely legal thing in porn has been a thing for a long time. So for here to go ahead and set up into that, why not? And then the thing too is that we also know that there have been other women that have also gone the same route of OnlyFans when it was available, and they decided to go that route. Case in point, Bad Baby, aka Daniela Bergoli. We all remember Cash Me Outside, Dr. Phil, also going into her own end with music with flip-flops and then going into other areas of music and, doing pretty well for herself. And so far to date has made $52 million on OnlyFans. And that's where she's going with it, okay? As a matter of fact, when she posted her OnlyFans earnings, she claimed to have made more money, over $1 million, in her first 3 hours, and that Bad Baby set the record before that of $1.03 million in 6 hours. The money's there. When you've made yourself such a public figure, then yeah, that's what happens. The other thing that's also very telling, as she's drawn a lot of interest from other OnlyFans celebrities, sharing a screenshot of a DM from Bonnie Blue, who, of course, this show is very familiar with them. We've talked about plenty of times, and I'm sure some of you in this program have probably heard me talk about her. Well, Olivia here in the cut, she says, lots of people find this whole thing disturbing. TikTok comments are filled with warnings against joining OnlyFans and only hopes that she was talking about new music when she spoke about dropping the link, quote unquote. But talking to her haters, she proclaimed she was still winning despite what they had to say. Quote, y'all have been doubting me for 7 years. You can hate on me all you want. You can't say Lil Tay ain't winning. So for everybody out there, do whatever the hell you want with your life. Who gives a fuck what people have to say? And remember this, Lil Tay rich and finna get richer. And oh yeah, thank you to all my supporters who pre-ordered since 2018 or whenever you did, end quote. But the approach from younger people being drawn to OnlyFans, well, we're starting to see that the psychology is playing into this as well. But before I go into that, let me just go and get into one other thing that Perez Hilton came in here and said that upon the launch of the OnlyFans page, she said, quote, the night of my 18th birthday, 1 minute past midnight, I got to work. I filmed all the content and it's finally coming out tomorrow. This is for everybody that has pre-ordered since like 2023. It's coming. It's finally here. Everybody that's pre-ordered 2 years before, and they were already just counting the days to it. That's just quite telling. But here's the story behind all that anyway. Psych Post actually talks about this. There is a new study that comes out in the Journal of Sexuality and Culture. Many adolescents in Spain, including those as young as 12 years old, are not only aware of OnlyFans, but also see it as a viable and even empowering way to make money. So they spoke with 160 teenagers and discovering that the platforms promoting erotic content are influencing how young people, especially girls, view economic opportunity, self-worth, and sexuality. Teens frequently framing content creation as a personal choice of expression or agency while minimizing the risks. So the researchers wanted to go ahead and look at the sexualization of media and the normalization of erotic self-presentation that affect adolescent development. Listen, they probably saw Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue making their way onto the scene on OnlyFans earlier this year. I have no doubt in my mind that some of the younger women out there were saying to themselves, when they were already looking at where OnlyFans models were already kind of putting up adult content anyway. We already know that was already going on since the pandemic, since 2020. Now we move forward, and we have now gone the 5 years into the extreme of what OnlyFans can be as an adult platform, to the point that now we're getting outside the platform the stunts and the exhibition and all that going on. Erotic self-presentation they're talking about, which is exactly what we've talked about with all these OnlyFans models here on the program. So study author Cristel Anciones Anguita, a PhD candidate at the University of Alcalá, she says, quote, we were increasingly concerned about the impact of hypersexualized digital culture on adolescents, especially the normalization of platforms like OnlyFans across social media. Now, the platforms are legally restricted to adults, but minors are not only accessing the content, but also integrating it into their everyday culture and career aspirations. They wanted to explore how this exposure affects her psychosocial development, gender perceptions, and views on intimacy and success. 164 high school students, ages 12 to 16, from both urban and rural areas of Guadalajara and Spain. So, focus group discussions as part of a broader sex education program. And they go through a lot of research now, reflexive thematic analysis, identifying recurring patterns on how teens describe their understanding of OnlyFans. So the researchers found out that young teens have a sophisticated understanding of how OnlyFans works. They were able to describe the platform's business model in detail, how subscribers pay for exclusive content, how earnings depend on popularity, frequency of posts, and willingness to share more explicit material. Listen, monetizing just the way TikTok or Instagram or anybody else does. But it's the adult content that they know they can make more money on because of the value of it for that immediate moment. Participants often reference girls' physical appearance as a key factor in success, suggesting that those who match certain beauty standards are more likely to earn money. We already know that. Listen, I can go through my FYP on TikTok regularly, and I can't tell you the bevy of beautiful women that I see, young women that just come across my feed. Part of it is because there's certain songs I might be listening to and I catch up on, and they're dancing to them. Or it could be older music, and they're just catching up with something that's like a song that's like, all right, and some young lady's all dressed up, outfit of the day, looking amazing. The work that, for these women to look beautiful and be on here, and of course the adulation, the ogling of many men out there, probably my age and younger, going into this and going into hearing all the women that are on here, you see it. And that's the difference between the gateway between what women would do to get onto a Maxim magazine or an FHM cover, and then move on and step up to a Playboy or Penthouse cover. This is the exact same correlation. From TikTok or Instagram all the way over into OnlyFans. It's the same thing. Now, for those that want to go and say, well, OnlyFans isn't always about that, and OnlyFans tries to position themselves as not for adult content, but people know that's where they go for adult content. And dare I say that OnlyFans has become what Playboy used to be. And maybe a little bit more than that, who knows? But it's also amateur. There's not even professionals on here. There might be influencers on here that have been professionally shot and photographed and modeled and all this. There's, they professionally know how to go make their makeup to make sure they look good for whatever TikTok videos that they do or YouTube videos that they make. They kind of figure that out. So the glamorization that already comes up there, the photographing, the beauty that is magnified on Instagram or TikTok, the objectification of the bodies, right? For the women that are there. And they say, you know what? Am I willing to go and take that next step? And OnlyFans is that next step. Because then the only difference is that you have clothes on TikTok and Instagram. Don't on OnlyFans. It's the same thing. It's just a new variation to it. But the other difference is this. Because the women that are on these sites, for the most part, they might have management. They might have some people that are consulting and kind of taking direction of what they're doing with their careers. They have management. But for the most part, it's not like you're part of some setup where you have a lot of professionals that are actually handling your career. There's none of that. Instead, a lot of these women just might be on their own before they get to the point that they get drawn into this. And it's not of anything else more than the fact that if you're able to get more young, beautiful women to go ahead and go to these platforms and make money off of them, for OnlyFans, they can go ahead and be as pretentious and sanctimonious as they want to be, okay? But even they have to understand, okay, you got these young women, dime a dozen coming up on the sites, and they might make the initial money rain on those sites, but then it will drop after a while, depending on how long the appeal for these stars are able to go and be. Because you got to ask yourself, how long does some of these women last to go and stay on here? Because the most important thing for them, that is the reason that they feel like they can get more out of traction out of these OnlyFans careers, is because of a couple of things. Number one, the interaction with their audience, with the fans that they get of this, the ones that are just, They're ogling over and they're doing other things to get off on the fact they see the beauty of them naked or doing certain sex acts themselves. It's that personal touch. And then the other part that also bothers me is because it's also online. This is not in public. You know, it's like, sure, there's a lot of things on the internet that will always be there and will always be stuck in time. You can't do anything about it. Nothing you can do about it. But what you do have to deal with is the fact that it was one thing to have physical copies of you on a magazine or on a video or DVD or whatever it was and being sold as such. But now it's all this stuff that's online. And it's like, for the women here, the young women, the teens on this particular research study, and for the women that are also doing the content, you know, they lose complete connectivity with real life. Because everything's virtual. There's nothing real about everything that they're doing, except for the beauty. But, you know, it's like they're not out there interacting with real people in the real world. If they are, it's being well managed and also being orchestrated. Probably not out there in real life, and they're not getting paparazzi around them and all these kind of things. Like, I don't know. Moving on to this psychological study. Participants often reference the girl's physical appearance as a key factor in success, that boys also describe the platform as a realistic option for their own futures, seeing it as more lucrative for women. Some teens would express discomfort with the sexual content associated with OnlyFans, but others frame participation as a rational economic decision, especially for girls who might not pursue traditional education or employment. That's the big thing that's also too, is that the women will think that if they put their bodies up on these sites and the money they can make off of this is what they're going to be able to have. That's their only value. And that is sad. And that's tragic to hear that someone actually think that it's only their beauty that's going to get them somewhere. No, it's always been. I mean, biologically, it's a woman's beauty that is often the appeal, the approach, and then for all, you know, men and women to be approached and drawn to her. But then when the beauty begins to fade away, it's the wisdom that woman gains that makes her relevant in a different way as she evolves in life, as a mother, as a provider, a caretaker, as a partner, or as a leader, whatever. There were some that also likened it to prostitution, questioning whether anyone would truly chooses to sell intimate content if they are struggling economically. And the tension echoed broader concerns in the literature about how the language of empowerment can mask deeper power imbalances. But I always see this too. For some of these women that decide to go this route, look at Lil Tay's situation. Broken family. Who knows what kind of trauma she's gone through, on top of the fact she decided to go and put herself out there to be recognized and become popular at 10 years old. And the kind of pressure that puts on a young girl. And now 8 years later, here she is, and she's become popular. And, you know, who knows what she's gone through? Because I'll imagine she couldn't live a normal life now after all that she's gone through. There's no way. The promotion of OnlyFans on popular platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter also emerges as a significant influence. X, by the way, not Twitter. Teens reported seeing frequent posts or ads on the platform, often featuring stories of people making thousands of euros per month, because we're talking about Spanish kids, sharing sexualized photos or videos. And some students received direct messages encouraging them to create content or subscribe to their accounts. How about that? Are we talking about there are people out there that are trying to lure young women into making accounts on OnlyFans? Is that a thing going on too? A recruitment process very quietly under the woodwork? That's amazing. That's actually kind of concerning to me, really, when I look at that. Boys reported seeing pop-up ads or pirated content in group chats like in Telegram or Discord. Many admitted to accessing this content despite OnlyFans age restrictions, despite workarounds to bypass verification. Now, listen, if you are looking to go and find content that's been ripped off of OnlyFans, it's out there. And for those women that are out there, you know, don't think that you're not going to be able to go ahead and say, oh, that my content's not going to get found. Oh, no. There will be guys that will get a subscription. They'll find a way to go ahead and rip it down. They'll be able to download it. They'll get it somewhere. They'll post it somewhere else. And eventually, it takes time. It's just like all the other porn. Eventually, somebody's going to put it up there and you're going to be able to see it. It'll be out there for free somewhere. But for the meantime, it'll be out there. You can try to make a little money off of it right off the bat. Another important finding they had was how strongly OnlyFans was associated with financial success, and teens citing the platform as an easier and more appealing alternative to traditional work or education. In this environment, sexual self-presentation was often described as a smart or even admirable strategy. Oh, that sucks. Scholars might call this neoliberal sexual entrepreneurship, where individuals, particularly young women, are encouraged to brand themselves online and turn their sexuality into a marketable asset. The danger, researchers argue, is that this logic reduces self-worth to how well one can attract attention or generate income from one's appearance. There's some delusion out there for young women. It comes from all different directions, okay? Let's just say that feminism has grown into such a thing now that it's out of control. And for women, I feel for you. Young women that listen to this program, I feel for you for the directions you have to go through and weave around and go through obstacles all over the place, because there are guys that might try to do something to kind of downplay your worth, downplay your value, downplay your beauty because of their own shortcomings, because of their own traumatic events that have caused them to be horrible people to date or to interact with. If they're not sexually active, they're not sexually understanding and have the proclivities to know how to be sexually active and know how to have sex with a young woman and know what to do. Some of those guys probably are inefficient in the bedroom. Just saying it like that too. Besides being awkward because they're younger. Now, the lead researcher also says we were, quote, struck by how naturally adolescents discuss OnlyFans with a clear understanding of the subscription-based model and even sharing techniques to bypass age restrictions. Yeah. But there are women that if they can get themselves onto the site and they're not even 18 years old, which could be a possibility that some of those OnlyFans models that are on there, guys, you might be looking at someone that might be underage. And is that a good thing to be a part of? They also looked how adolescents experienced and interpreted this digital culture. Girls were more likely to express concerns about body image, judgment, and safety, while boys spoke more casually about the platform or focused on its financial potential. And so it's reinforcing long-standing inequalities on how girls and boys are socialized around sex and self-expression. For example, girls were more likely to receive unwanted sexual messages or feel pressure to meet beauty standards. Boys describe their role as more consumers, more than creators of content. And this is the thing, the split that is stupid. This is the part I have an issue with, because I don't want it to be where guys are looking at women and they can't have a natural, conventional relationship. Now, in a couple of weeks, I have a really great guest I'm going to bring on to the Brave and Debaucherous. I am finishing his book. It's called Primal Dating. And just give you a quick caveat before we go ahead and move along, because the book, I can tell you, is amazing. This book is mind-blowing. Primal Dating, the Unflinching Evolutionary Psychology Guide to Modern Relationships. What I'm telling you is that they are going through popular myths that we all hear, whether it's from, cousins, brothers, sisters, friends, whoever. The things you hear about dating and what you should do. And they go through and they reveal the biology that shapes human relationships that's always been in us. It's inherent, it's natural, it's who we are as we grow up. And the thing is, this particular story, oh my goodness, I'm blown away by what he's talking about. And let me tell you, it's seriously the most important dating book I've ever read in my life. And I have read over 100 dating books in my life. There's not one book I have read that has got my attention and has given me more insight. It's not a book trying to give me the skills to become a good dater. No, it's telling me how I'm wired, how I really am, and helping me reset the way I should be looking on how I interact with women, being responsible and accountable for the kind of man I need to be to attract the woman that I want to be with. There's so much in this book that says everything that you got to realize. And I'm telling you, once I get my guest in a couple of weeks, Tim Ash, on, I'm going to interview him next week. And I plan to go ahead and turn around the episode for the following week in 2 weeks from now on the program. That's what I'm planning to go and do. If I don't put it out as a regular episode, because who knows, there's probably some new content that comes out, some news I got to go and talk about. And depending on what happens, either I will add it as an extra episode that you'll have in the feed in 2 weeks, or it will be the episode coming up in 2 weeks. But again, before you even get to me, if you want to go ahead and find out about this book, and I'm giving you, it's getting the highest recommendation, the highest endorsement I can give possibly. And I don't do this lightly. It's not my thing to plug and promote all this stuff over here. But let me tell you, I know the host, the author of this book, Tim Ash. I've known him for 20 years. So smart guy. And I've worked with him. And when I heard about this book and I started reading it, about 2/3 of the way through, I am amazed. My eyes are opened. And there's only a couple of books about dating that ever really got my attention. And this book is it. Primal Dating, the Unflinching Evolutionary Psychology Guide to Modern Relationships. You don't need another dating book. Forget women are from Venus, men are from Mars. Forget about that book. Forget about all the other books you've ever read. The other ones are junk compared to this book. Primal Dating, the Unflinching Evolutionary Psychology Guide to Modern Relationships. Find it on Amazon. It's available in Kindle and paperback. You just got to find it. The book is, there's a lot I'm going to say about it, but I will give you a taste of what that book is going to be about, and you're going to realize why I'm so caught up into this. Find out for yourself. Anyway, back to the story here on the psychology. That also in the research, there's so much they learned about this, but we kind of knew about this too. And the researchers also looked at being worried about the normalization of sexualized self-presentation and the lack of critical reflection on the long-term consequences. The same thing I talk about with tattoos. I say the same thing about that. By the way, I did get a couple of comments after my episode on tattoos, trauma, that I keep getting every time I do this episode. And I got a handful of comments talking about that this past week. I want to go ahead and bring up a couple of those real quick here. INM wrote back and he says, my ex-girlfriend had a mermaid tattooed on her thigh that covered much of her upper leg. Wearing a short skirt, you could see a fish-like tail emerging from under the fabric. Totally lost on her the connotations of a fishy region for those gentlemen smart enough to connect the dots. Unfortunately, he was crazy where the X part comes from. Now, in the research, the researchers said that parents have a role to play. Open, non-judgmental conversations about sexuality and media influence can help teens navigate these complex environments. And then there's about how governments and tech companies can strengthen policies to prevent the promotion of sexualized content to minors. But it still comes down to the parents. Parents got to make sure that they have a good grasp of where their kids are on social media, the friends they hang out with, their interactions, and find out what they're involved in. Like, the thing is, the most important thing they can do is that, whatever interactions they have with friends, like one thing I've always heard from parents was the parents that will say, hey, if I want to keep an eye on my kids, then let the friends come over and hang out. Be the parents that say, hey, if you want to go and you get together, then come over to our house. You want to sleep over, come over to our house. You can go ahead and know what's going on. You could be in the know. That's not a bad idea to go there at. So there's a lot to that. Now, on to the story about Bonnie Blue, because of course we got to talk about her. She's in the space, as always. And man, I went long on this show. I didn't expect it to go so long, but hey, what can I say? 1,000 Men and Me, the Bonnie Blue story, the troubling tale of sex with 1,057 men in 12 hours. She has been labeled everything from predator to victim, denying both, says she has no daddy issues, no trauma in her past, and none induced by her work since. She's been accused of being a traitor, saying you're giving into the patriarchy, has received multitudinous insults, disgusting, deplorable slapper, end quote. They make the point in this particular documentary that she is as steely in her approach to her career as she is Staccavenite in her labors. When she needs to court attention, the easiest way is to often insult the incels of wives and girlfriends of the men who watch her and come to her events. Quote, I just loved knowing I was doing something their wives should have done, end quote. Recommending bringing their partner's underwear along. Quote, I'll make them smell much nicer. Quote. Wow, this girl is something. Quote, that if a girl says she is on her period, there's nothing wrong with her throat, end quote. And listen, Bonnie Blue, she is a stunt. I mean, listen, she's a character. I can't possibly believe that she's doing all this here, but it is entertaining to go in here anyways. But I also have not watched any of her content. I haven't gone to look for it. And it also has just not dropped in my lap to go and find it. It's not one of those things I'm looking for. The story that she has here is very interesting to me. But like women are women, when you're looking at naked women, one naked body is another naked body you've seen before. Not like you see much different. She says, everybody says my brain works different. I'm not just emotional. If I want to get upset, I won't get upset. If I don't want to get upset, I won't get upset. And she says, quote, this particular writer reviewing this says that, do I admire her work ethic and facility for business? Yes. Do I wish we lived in a world where the best option for realizing those talents as a young woman was not through making online porn? Yes. Do I see where we go from here? Yes, I do. And she will be fine. So that is going on right now. It's on Channel 4. The documentary I haven't seen yet. I'll go ahead and try to look out for that. That may be an interesting story to go look at. And there's more on this. The Guardian, by the way, putting that story out. And there's more to this as well. And a story from Gabby Hinsliff saying that Bonnie Blue's porn empire misses the point. This is hardcore economics. They say that there's more to the story than just sex, gender politics, or Bonnie herself. It's a story about money, the merging the oldest trade of the world with a newer attention economy, inexorably geared towards rewarding extremes, and what that does to the society that unwillingly produced it and buys into it and consumes it. The biggest short-term beneficiary of Bonnie is posting rage bait videos expertly calibrated to provoke women who already can't stand her. Being hated is great for business, she explains chirpily. The more women publicly denounce her, the more their sons and husbands will Google her. Her real skill is monetizing both lust and rage, crossing the internet's two most powerful streams to capture its most lucrative currency, attention. He's right. He's playing both sides. And she's making good money as a result of that. But that's the difference where Bonnie Blue blows away by everybody else. Because here, OnlyFans performers can't advertise as a normal business would, so they promote themselves by seeding clips across social media. Ideally, of them doing something wild enough to go viral, since people get bored easily. The pressure is always to get wilder and wilder, pushing way past whatever you thought were limits. Lil Tay is going to learn that lesson pretty soon. She's already going into that. She's already seasoned to doing that. So for her, go ahead and follow that same suit and follow the Bonnie Blue path. Well, she sees where Bonnie Blue's going with it and how much it's made for her. She's seen what Bad Baby, has done in the same career, and she's following the same suit. Why not? One other story I want to bring up in here before we wrap things up was another beauty brand out there. We already heard about what's been going on with Dunkin' Donuts. They have a young hunky guy talking about Golden Summer, iced coffee drinks. Sydney Sweeney with American Eagle jeans. And now Urban Decay is another one as part of this. And the partnership they're working with Ari Kitsia. And the story from Pop Sugar writes that it's time that beauty brands recognize the influence of OnlyFans stars. So Urban Decay launched a Battle of the Bland, a campaign funded by this 24-year-old model known for her social media, for her comedic Getting Ready With Me, candid takes on plastic surgery, and overt sexuality. And she comes across as a beauty ambassador with a traditional feel to herself. Brunette, heavy-chested, very conventional, very mainstream beauty features that everybody can accept. And I'm trying to think of who she looks like and who she resembles in the face, but I can't think about it right now. But for herself, she's been on TikTok. She is on TikTok, and she's racked up 4.6 million followers. Many of them are women drawn to her blunt transparency. So Urban Decay is now working with her, and there's been some controversy behind her from the same people that also said about her, what are we doing with all these, women that are not so diverse when it comes to shape or color or culture and all that stuff. So Urban Decay actually put out some Instagram teasers. Stamped with mock warnings like may contain boring or bland content. And there were a series of social videos where Ari Kessie, clad in a leather bustier, declares, breaking news, we are in a blandemic. Wasn't makeup meant to perform on stage, on camera, and yes, on mattresses? And this is something that the Urban Decay brand was built on identity, on provocation, with product names like Naked, Get Baked, Druggy, and Vice. So they're reclaiming the spot as beauty's rebellious older sister. And it's not the first time they've gone after somebody who was very controversial to be an influencer for Urban Decay. 2022, they tapped Euphoria breakout star Chloe Cherry, a former porn actress turned mainstream star, to lead its Vice lip balm campaigns. And now Urban Decay is now recognizing the power of provocative creators who defy traditional industry standards. And yeah, I haven't been paying attention to commercials because they're not obviously for me at all, but I have seen her on my TikTok feed 1 billion times right now, setting up for that. But again, for makeup, for jeans, the things we would like to see on beautiful women, right? That's what we're looking at right now. That's what's being put out there. Interesting stuff. So to close things out, I hope that some of the young women out there will take some consideration that what some of these researchers are doing, because they're only talking to kids 12 to 16 years old from Spain. But I think it can apply the same thing for in America as well, that you don't necessarily have to go right to OnlyFans from TikTok, because if you do, it's a little depraved and debaucherous.